Looking back at bringing in the Freedom of Information Act, Tony Blair said it was a pretty imbecilic decision. For political leaders, he said, it's like saying to someone who's hitting you over the head with a stick, hey, try this instead, and then handing them a mallet. The issue is acute right now because freedom of information demands for the Prime Minister's text messages, letters and private emails are going in. The rigours of the Freedom of Information Act, that so-called mallet, are such that politicians feel the space where they can talk honestly has been shrunk massively. So much so that the back of a London taxi may be one of the last places they can talk to each other in complete privacy. Well, today Newsnight has learnt that a senior official is on the verge of putting out guidance that stipulates no personal emails can be used for government business. They want to put ministers in the position of being able to say all government business is on the record. The aim by the civil servant, Whitehall's head of propriety Sue Gray, appears to be to draw a line under the issue to protect the prime ministerial text messages. If everyone signs up to her new, stricter regime, then the personal correspondence of the past might be off limits. At the moment, the new Cabinet Office guidance is shaping up to ban private emails or letters for government business, insist that if a private email is used, then an official must be copied in. All ministers and advisers must sign up to this. So, when a Freedom of Information request comes in, because the new rules are tougher, the government say they won't search private correspondence unless there is evidence. In an unnoticed case, the Information Commissioner has recently ruled that if you were once in government, and when you're in government you used your personal email account for government business, well, even after you've left the job, it could still be searchable. For the people in this office, Labour headquarters, that could be quite a lot of searches. They were in power for 13 years. But all of this is housekeeping compared to some of the really big Freedom of Information requests. Today, the government is facing new calls to release the risk register on the health bill. You're used to seeing the front of Downing Street. Well, this is the back of Downing Street, the inner workings of the office, and it's freedom of information requests that allow us to get closer in and see how they make their decisions. But if you actually work inside the building, then it doesn't have quite such a benign effect. At a recent meeting of senior civil servants, they discussed the FOI Act and the effects it was having across government. According to one official, it's simply paralysing. Someone who has been in government and managed freedom of information requests says it wasn't an issue.
One of the things about the way before FOI was in place is that people could be very loose and free in the way they spoke about things. That doesn't mean that they were better about it. It sometimes meant actually, FOI can actually make people be more professional in the way that they put things. It shouldn't stop people having discussions, but they just need to think that could be on the front page of a newspaper and how it would come across. And frankly, if you've got your positive enough about your policy decisions, you should have no problem defending the policy in public if it's released to the public. What you want to watch for is people who write loosely worded emails that are perhaps personal about people, which is unprofessional anyway, so what's the problem?
The Prime Minister has formed a different view.
In my experience of 2 years in the Freedom of Information Act and all the rest of it, it seems to me that real freedom of information is the money that goes in, the results that come out. Making government more transparent is the best thing. We spent, the system, well, unfortunately not me, seems to spend an age on dealing with FOI requests that are all about processes. And actually, what the public and what the country, what Parliament needs to know is how much money you're spending, is that money being spent well, and what are the results?
The solution being discussed, no doubt on official government phones and computers, is to make freedom of information applicable to more organisations in the name of transparency, but to cut down on those frivolous requests. The government is gearing up to charge different tariffs. They do so knowing that any major change of tack, their coalition partners might not be able to support.
I think if there's a slight tweaking of the Freedom of Information Act to deal with a few of the slight oddities that have come out, I think that would be fine. If there's any sense of what we're seeing is a reduction in the access to information about what is going on within government, I and the Liberal Democrats would be extremely concerned about that and would do our best to stop it.
This will be a fight to define transparency. The government believe it's about a barrage of data released from these departments. Others believe it's about the public's right to demand whatever documents they want to see. The government know they need to explain why it's in the public's interest to make some discussions a little less public.